The French dip from Firehouse Subs is here for a limited time. Piled high with premium roast beef, caramelized onions, and melty cheese on a freshly toasted garlic butter roll. Every French dip is served with warm, savory au jus for dipping. This melty French dip is only at Firehouse Subs for a limited time, so head to your nearest Firehouse Subs or order on the app and try the French dip before it's gone. Limited time at participating Firehouse Subs restaurants while supplies last.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Where intellectual honesty gets witness protection from social prosecution. The Last Show with David Cooper.
The TV show Heated Rivalry, the romance set with two men in the world of hockey, is hot. It is melt-your-face hot. But beyond the steaminess, what is the show actually saying about queer representation, belonging, even well-being? Let us dig into that with Professor Tinvo. They are at the Faculty of Social Work at the University of Toronto. Tin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
Let's talk about visibility in a traditionally closed space. Hockey, it is not often thought of as a space where two men get into it, have a romance. It's kind of like a macho, elite sports kind of world. Talk to me about what this show is doing for that perception.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a really interesting point to observe around, like, that machoism that comes into play when we think about hockey. There's just this like level of competitiveness and aggression that's involved in hockey that is often celebrated, especially in dominant ways of thinking about what it means to be masculine or a man in sports, and in particular this very aggressive sport. And so one of the things, like, they definitely show that kind of aggression, like on the ice. But I do think that there's also, like, among some of the players and team members, there's also this like bonding that happens that they show between team members, and sort of this like care for each other and just checking in on how they're doing. And I think that's what this show does something really well in sort of balancing some of that aspect of the like very macho piece around hockey, but also this bonding that happens among team members that is not really seen when we watch hockey in the real world.
It's funny, you watch hockey, any sports, if two players start punching each other, the refs throw them out. It's a big no-no. With hockey, when players start fighting, the refs get out of the way and they let them duke it out. I mean, it's a violent sport. Mm-hmm. Why do you think people are so excited to see a romance of two men, something not really talked about in hockey or most major sports? Why do you think people are so excited about this?
You know, I think if I want to take a step back in thinking about like art in its form, media that we're consuming in our daily lives, there are, I guess, three types of ways that we want to think about the way that art is represented. One is history, how we understand the way things have been in the past. Second is what's happening in everyday life now. And then third is, what do we want to visualize or envision for our world in the future? And there's different forms of art that sort of represents those different time points. And this art piece, I think, Heated Rivalry, in this current stage is almost in a way of looking to this balance of current and future state of what we want to see in our society. And I think that's what maybe is attracting people, is because sort of like, when we see art in this way, we see our own values represented within the art. And by representing this almost level of inclusion of queer people within sports, kind of shows like there's this like desire for changing values and in shifting the values that we hold, or embedding those values or making them much clearer in the way that we view this particular sport activity.
That's such an interesting way of talking about art, and that's such an interesting way of framing the show, kind of a mix of where we are now and where we might want to be in a future where gay men in hockey can have a steamy romance. Side note, like, I think a lot of people enjoy the show because, a lot of people love a good romance, and that's what this is a straightforward and good romance.
Yeah, I think maybe just another thing here, just to add another layer of criticalness in thinking about the way that queer representation appears on screen. And actually, this aligns with some of the research that I'm doing with queer and trans youth around things like they're bringing up conversations around queer joy. And just to note here, like a lot of the research around LGBTQ populations, queer folks, trans folks, it's very much focused on like what's wrong with this community, what's going wrong with these communities in terms of the tragedies, the harms impacted by these communities. And with this show and with the youth that I'm talking to, they really try to emphasize that queer joy, sort of like what could go right for queer folks, and the shows just sort of represents what's going right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of like shows, movies that depict queer identities and experiences, and it focuses on sort of that tragic outcome,
the struggle
the struggle that they experience in coming out. But this show sort of shows a struggle, of course, but that there are supports available, and that there could be aspects that are celebrated in terms of being queer. And we see that kind of celebration through the parents, through the friends, we see in the main characters.
Oh, you're spoiling the show. I'm going to watch it Monday. Sorry. I promise. A week Monday. But no, I think that's really interesting. Just that it's this depiction of joy within the community and not really a struggle narrative. Not that we shouldn't have narratives around the struggle. I think there's some wonderful pieces of art depicting that. But I think it's almost straightforward in a way. And I think that's why people are so struck by it.
Yeah, I mean, I just say like it's uncomplicated. Plots are very straightforward. And I think just to add here is like a little point around the fantasy of like what could be, just as I was sort of talking about in terms of what we would love to see. And I think that's like just resonating well with a lot of people, because we know that in the current state of the world, there is so much going wrong. And just part of the building that fantasy is really important to think about, this as an art piece that is supporting sort of this vision of where we would like to be as a society.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Are you surprised by the success of the show? These actors weren't that well known. It was just a show. I think they were kind of like shopping around for a buyer. HBO might have said no. Crave said yes. Then HBO decided to pick it up. This show was not highly funded. Now these actors are everywhere. They were at the Olympic ceremony. They were at all the major awards ceremonies in the U.S. Are you surprised by how much the show is taken off? How much it's part of the conversation right now?
Yeah, I mean, I am surprised at how much uptake there has been. But having watched the show, I'm pretty sure I've watched every episode 3 or 4 times, just to really understand some of the storytelling in terms of like.
I'm just doing research, everybody. I'm doing my research.
Exactly. And I think like the way that the actors depict emotions are just so powerful. There's just those little points in sort of the quiver of the mouth, or just little body language pieces that sort of show like there's more to who these people are beyond the very clear conversation that happens or the straightforward plot that occurs. But I think some of that storytelling, the imagery, the like connecting back to memories and experiences that we saw in earlier episodes, I think the storytelling piece that the director and so forth illustrates through the show, it does help us understand all of the different ways that we might want to think about the experiences of the characters themselves, and I think that is a really helpful way to I think just think about maybe why this has been taken up so well among even mainstream community members.
Well, Tin, thanks for taking a more nuanced lens and looking at this show with me. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, I know.
Professor Tin Vo works at the Faculty of Social Work at the University of Toronto. Tin, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Welcome to Survivor 50.
February 25th on Global.
We chose you to represent 25 years of the greatest adventure on television.
It's the biggest season ever.
The twist is going to open up Pandora's box.
Now I see Zach Brown on Survivor.
Welcome to Survivor, Mr. Beast.
Feels a little like a high school reunion meets a massacre.
Survivor 50th season. Wednesday, February 25th on Global. Stream on Stack TV.